Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Etsy Rants. I am Peggy, and today's topic is, why are my sales down? I think I've touched on it before. I really think I have. I just can't be bothered to pay enough attention, I guess. Anyway. So you guys are stuck. You guys are stuck listening to me while I get some work done. So you might be looking at the back of my head or the side of my head once in a while, but that's just life. Because if I didn't have an online business, I'd have no reason to talk about an online business, and I need to get back to the business of being in business. So, we've been seeing a lot of people coming in lately that are having issues. Their shop sales are down, and for some people it's a rather abrupt change. So, let's just talk about it. Now, one of the things that I figured out that I noticed is I went, well, why are people not just looking up ideas online? And I realized a lot of the ideas online, when you look it up, why are my shop sales down, blah, 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 you see people talking about brick and mortar businesses. And this is an online business, and online businesses work a little differently. Sometimes they work exactly the same. And of course, your mileage will always vary. No two businesses are identical. Even if they're selling the same product, behind the scenes is usually a little bit different. So there's all sorts of moving parts in sorting out, why are my sales down? When your sales are down, how do you sort out what's going on with you? Anyway. So I'm just going to go over some stuff to look at. Number one, if your sales are down, then I don't want to say if you're taking your business seriously, because that's kind of crap. I don't take my business seriously. This is a part-time side gig, right? And my opinions are based on my experience, what I have gone through, what I have seen others in my closer circles going through, blah, blah, blah. Everything that you talk about, when you're looking at stuff like this, for starters, everything is opinion-based. Everything. I cannot factually prove why your sales are down. I can't factually prove why mine are down. You can only make assumptions, respond to them, and hope that you've hit on the right thing. So let's just leave that in its own little niche off to the side, and we'll see what's going on. So number one, not number one. I always start with number one, and then I'm like, I never go in. These are in no particular order. But the biggest thing that I always say to people, my sales are down and I don't know what's going on. Why is nobody buying my product? My first question to people when they ask me this is your product a hula hoop? Now, for those of you who are young and have no idea what happened with the hula hoop, back in the 50s, even before my time, okay? Hula hoop was like this new thing. Oh my God, there's this hula hoop. It's really cool. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. And it took off. It was amazing. They made millions and millions and millions of dollars, probably close to $1 billion by today's money. It was just over the top. 2 years later, everybody who wanted a hula hoop had a hula hoop. The fad was over. It was a kid's toy, obviously. So the market crashed because it was the cool new toy until it wasn't. And now I have no idea. I think it was like a Mattel product. I'm not sure. The toy company associated with hula hoop didn't go broke. I don't think hula. Anyway, that was a long time ago, before my time, and I'm old as fuck as it is. So anyway, hula hoop was making millions and millions of dollars like a week, and then suddenly crashed. It was no longer popular. Now, I'm working this backwards, but the problem is your product a hula hoop? Is your product something that was insanely popular a couple of years ago, and it's just not popular now? That happens. That's not your fault. It's your problem. Obviously, you have to sort it out. Have you done any research into your particular product to see if the market for that product has dropped? And again, the hula hoop is a specific example, but you can look up, is my version of the hula hoop still a popular product? You can do your research and find out if there's been a drop. And maybe your product is so niche that you're never going to know for sure. But it could be that your product just simply is not maybe there's a newer, bigger, better product that does the job your product did, and people are no longer interested in your product. That happens. Not your fault. It's a problem to solve, but it's not your fault. So if you find that out about your product, then continuing to bang your head against that wall going, why is nobody buying my hula hoop, is not going to do you any good. You need to update your product. Change your product, do something. This does happen. This absolutely does happen. Can you repackage your product and sell it into a different market? Do you have to redo your product? That is a very common thing. And don't forget, in Etsy, there's over 7.5, it's probably close to 9 million buyers now. Sellers. I got to go look that up. Anyway, is your product no longer relevant to online shopping? That is probably the single biggest one. And again, the hula hoop, it's my understanding that hula hoop sales were like way up here one day, and then within a month they were way down here. They were also a summer product. So, 2 years later, end of summer, 2 years later, it's just done. Which leads me to the second one. Is your product a seasonal product? Some people, wreaths are, in my area of the world, a seasonal Christmas product. We don't really see people hanging up Easter wreaths, Halloween wreaths, that sort of thing. Some communities, some sort of a wreath, or just welcome to my home. We don't do that here. It's not a thing, right? In other areas of the country, Canada or the U.S., it's very common to see porch decoration of some kind, right? So, is it out of season for your product, or, and this is the more relevant thing, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say it very well, is your product mostly popular in certain seasons and only locally popular in other seasons? And I use wreaths as an example because somebody came in, this was a long time ago, it was an Easter wreath, so it was springtime of last year, and they were kind of upset. I switched out, decided to offer Easter wreaths because they're really popular, right? And but nobody's buying them. What's going on? I'm offering the same quality. I'm offering this. I'm offering that. She didn't realize that because she had no reason to look. She had no reason to ask. She didn't realize that outside of her area, her geographical area where she was living, that seasonal wreaths outside of Christmas weren't nearly as popular. So it was much harder to get sales. She figured that out. As far as I remember, I don't know if she either stopped doing them. She was not doing just wreaths. She was doing something else, right? And she was like, I want to keep busy when it's not Christmas, that sort of thing. So anyway, so that could be your product. Your product could be, I could start listing products. Your product could be really popular in some areas, in some circumstances, and less popular outside. There are regionally popular products. There are nationally, internationally, yada yada yada. So, is that your product? Is that something? Is that your product? Is that something you can look up? So, seasonal fluctuations are a thing, and regional and cultural. There's all sorts of reasons why a product would fluctuate in sales in ways that you wouldn't expect. Like I said, if having a wreath on your door at all times, at all seasons, for all reasons, is really, really, really super popular where you come from, then you're going to do really well on Christmas wreaths that are nationally popular, and then you're going to crash and burn the rest of the year if you're expecting the same sales volume, because the opposite is not necessarily true. So, another one. Now, what have I got here? What's your pricing? Here is one. I warn people about this constantly, and people constantly tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and then the same people constantly come back telling me they've got no sales. What's your pricing like? Do you compete on pricing? I wrote this down. I got a few little notes in front of me to actually try and keep myself on track today. I know this is called Peggy Rants, but my rants can get really like over the fucking top once in a while if I just get on a roll. Okay. Do you compete on pricing? If you are competing on pricing, then you are racing to the bottom until you hit your basement where if I go any lower, I will not make money. I will not be able to stay in business, okay? So basically you are advertising to the lowest common denominator. You are advertising to the cheapskates. Did your prices bottom out? I can't afford to sell for less, so I have to stop lowering my prices to compete. Did your prices bottom out? But does your competition, for some reason or another, have the ability to go lower? Well, say goodbye to your sales. Picking a price that works for you and then cultivating an audience that appreciates what you do takes longer, but it has far more long-term benefits than just simply saying, oh, if I only make 5 cents an item, it's fine as long as I'm selling 500 a week. But there will always be, okay, what did I say here? Don't forget, you will always have people who believe that you have to lose money to build a customer base and pay your dues. when you are competing on pricing, keeping your prices as low as possible, you are competing with people who, you are competing with a relatively, it doesn't have to be a large number of people, it just has to be a number of people who believe that losing money initially is how you do business. When you are doing an online business, especially with Etsy, when you're doing that sort of thing, you're constantly fighting against other people to make as little as possible. Pick a price that works for you, cultivate an audience that works for that. If this is how you are gaining, if this is how you are operating your business, I'm going to offer the best price. Keep in mind that you will never be able to offer the best price. You will not be able, it doesn't happen. You can't do it. Every single time I've talked to people that have tried to compete on pricing, sooner or later, okay, every single person that has come back talking about how they competed on pricing comes back with the same story. I got my prices as low as I possibly can. I can't afford to go lower, and now I'm losing business to the competition. Well, you competed with the wrong people to get the wrong audience. Now, that's why your sales are low. Now, this is the thing. The reason why I'm doing this video, why are your shop sales dropping? That's the question. People come into the groups going all the time going, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Why are my sales dropping? This is what's going on. This is horrible. And of course, they'd be upset. I'm a side gig. Okay, my business has definitely dropped off in the last year, but this is just semi-retirement income for me. It can drop, it can continue to drop, and I probably still won't care because I'm not relying on the income. People are relying on the income, they're building up an income, something is happening to their income, they're coming in, and they're not really, it's really easy to lose track of the things that you should be looking at. I don't look at this shit. I do not look at this stuff because I'm not affected by it, which is kind of taking it in a circle. So I don't look at this stuff, and even when it does impact me, sometimes I will consciously choose to ignore it, to go, well, I like my prices where they are, so I'm not going to agonize, yada, yada, yada. And that's fine. You have to make your own adult decisions based on the information, but you're not going to be able to make the best decision unless you have all of the information. And just to rein myself in a little bit, just remember, these are all my thoughts, my opinions, my this, my that. I like to think we all like to think we're an expert at what we do. I'm an expert at what works for me. This is what I'm talking about. So if what I'm saying doesn't work for you, that's fine. But cherry pick the stuff that might work for you, cherry pick the ideas that you should probably explore more, and then make your own decisions. So this is what I'm accomplishing here. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. Anyway, I got to start the videos with, these are just my opinions, and I never do that. But I stick it in somewhere. I'm getting better at that part. Okay, let's go back to wreaths. You're making your wreaths one at a time. You're selling your wreaths for $50. I have no idea how pricing on wreaths works. So if you're laughing at me, it's because I don't know about wreaths. Well, if I'm doing wreaths and I can sell 50 wreaths a week, I can buy my product. I can now start buying my materials in bulk. Even when it's not about paying your dues and all this happy horse shit, there's always somebody who has a way to outdo you. Temporarily, permanently, whatever. So yeah, set a price that works for you, and then focus on bringing in the right audience. Now, who are your buyers? Now, we have economic shit happening right now. I'm in Canada, and I know, and of course the Americans are my neighbors. Both of our countries are talking, and the United States is where the biggest pool of buyers is. It's just the reality, right? And we do know that there's economic concerns in the States. We have economic concerns in Canada. Basically everybody is worried about the economy. People are not necessarily spending as much money as they used to. That's a fact of life. We can't do anything about that. We can't change anything about that. So changing our expectations is probably a really important thing that anybody who's serious about their Etsy business should be considering. So young people are when there's layoffs, it's usually the younger, less experienced, less tenured people that get laid off. If your product caters to those people, then your demographic not only has economic concerns, but are maybe already being impacted by that. That's not a you problem, but is there a way that you can revamp your product to appeal outside of your current demographic, right? Who's your current audience? My current audience is into the tarot community. If something changes for me and I decide that I really need to sort this shit out, then my problem is going to be, how do I get eyes on my product outside of the tarot community so I can broaden my horizons, broaden my customer base? This is what you need to do for yourself. Who are my customers? Are my customers niche? Let's get back to wreaths. Wreaths is very much general at Christmas time. It's niche the rest of the year. What can you do? Is there something you can do to, I've already got all these wreath making supplies. Is there something else I can make with the same supplies that will bring in a different audience, different needs, different niche, whatever? That's something you need to figure out. So, and again, these are things for you to think about, because everybody is coming in going, Etsy's not driving traffic to my shop. And that's not true. It's true, but it's not true. Have you updated your SEO tags? Have you updated your descriptions? Have you updated anything about, are you just plugging the same products into the same boxes over and over and over and over and over again, while you're competing with millions of people who are constantly updating and improving and updating and improving? That could be a thing. You may have to stop relying on Etsy for your search engine traffic and start relying more on yourself to drive your own traffic. You have to take an honest look at, instead of blaming Etsy, and sometimes you're blaming Etsy. I mean, I don't love everything that Etsy does, right? But at the end of the day, it's your business. If what Etsy's doing isn't working for me, I have to find another way to make it work for myself. So if I'm relying on the Etsy search engine for my traffic, I need to be on top of my SEO, my descriptions, my photos. I need to be constantly finding ways to improve, because that's what my competition is doing. Okay? Now, if that's not working for you, then you need to be looking at, and again, my opinion, but this is what I strongly believe, you need to be looking at ways to bring traffic of your own. You need to be finding ways to interact in your actual community, saying, hey, this is what I've got going, here's my shop, come visit me, versus going, I updated my SEO, why am I not getting sales? This is a thing. I talked about it more specifically on another video. I'm not going to go too much deeper into that. But it's about being honest with yourself. If you're not great at doing write-ups and stuff like that, then relying on Etsy for your traffic probably isn't going to work, because there are people that pay people for professional level, properly for write-ups, for descriptions and stuff like that. I think I accidentally made it sound like reviews. Don't get fake reviews in, because that will just get you shut down. But no, you can hire people that will do your product descriptions for you and then get you more traffic. Now, is it worth it? And maybe that's something else that you need to look at. Am I taking the right steps to make sure that my product is as appealing as possible to people who are shopping visually with no opportunity to touch, hold, and look at, and touch, and touch, and touch, and touch some more? Okay, that's a thing. So another thing, okay, women are more likely to spend money online than men. That's current statistics. That's statistics that I'm not gonna say this is exactly the way it is, because I don't know what the app, that's current as far as I was able to find. That might not be current anymore. So are you selling a product that is mostly appealing to men? And now that COVID's over, men are more likely to want to look at, touch, hold, feel. Men are more likely to want to go to a brick and mortar store and look at a product there than to buy something sight unseen online. And maybe that's also a lot of elements of culture, religion, geography, blah 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 blah. There might be other factors at play, but that's a generalization that I did find. And it's like, if that's your product, and people are no longer, and COVID is over, because is your product a COVID business? And the best and most obvious example is face masks. Face masks were everywhere during COVID. People were making bank selling face masks, especially people who already had a stockpile of fabric, because the fabric stores started running out of the kind of cotton you need to make a face mask. It was great. It was awesome. It was a hula hoop. As soon as people got you get a face mask, you're washing it. I've got face masks that I picked up online at the beginning of COVID that I still have. People are not going out buying fabric masks twice a week, right? So as things settled down, as we started coming out of lockdowns, those people were flooding in. Why is my business crashing? Why am I not making any money? It's like, because you're selling a niche product and the niche is no longer relevant. And the niche tapped out. Basically, the face mask market tapped out almost immediately because so many people were selling masks that it was, as soon as the masks started showing up, sales were great, sales were great, sales were great, and like I think it only took about 4 months for people to stop being able to sell their masks because it was, like I said, people with stockpiles of fabric were just churning them out by the hundreds, making a shit ton of money. But then everybody had a mask, and you wash, take it out, use it, take it home, wash it. I'm going to go in circles on that one because that one was a really big example of the my sales have tanked and I don't know why mentality that we started seeing once people no longer were buying face masks. And it's like, why did you expect this to go any other way? Okay, that's the thing. So, who are your buyers? Are your buyers broke? Are they back to shopping in person? This matters. Is there something about your product or your audience that will allow you to look this up? Probably if you spend enough time. I mean, I can find ways to look it up for my product. So I'm sure that you can for yours. But if that's what's going on, so right now we're already in no fault situations. You've done nothing. The market has changed around you. And if that's what's going on, blaming Etsy's not driving traffic to my shop, you're going to, it's a shooting yourself in the foot exercise. Because if you're going to blame this over here, then you're not looking at other things over here that you can fix, which is why I'm doing the video. People are so busy going, Etsy's not doing this, Etsy's not doing that. And don't we all love to blame somebody else, but you're not blaming yourself either. The market has changed, the situation has changed, the demographic has changed. Something about the appeal of your product, like I said, the hula hoop, face masks, it's just a no longer relevant product or less relevant. That's all changed. None of it's your fault. None of it is your fault. And I do think that we have a huge tendency to want to place blame. This is happening. This is not my fault. Therefore, somebody else did something wrong. How can I make them fix the problem for me? And it's like, dude, this is just business. Business doesn't care about shit. Business changes. The things that were important to you to buy and own and have in your home 5 years ago are not the things that you want to buy, have, and keep in your home today. It changes. And that's going to happen to you. No matter how big or small your shop is, that is going to happen to you. It's happened to me. And it's not a problem. Be aware of it. Be aware that this shit can happen and it's got nothing to do with you. Is there something you can do to freshen or update your product? Have you done it? That's a really simple one, right? Is there something about your product that can be updated or upgraded with new improved materials that can be maybe you do hair bands and now you can start offering 3-packs, coordinated 3-packs. Maybe you can find better materials. As your business gets bigger, you should this is personal advice, but anyway, as your business gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you should focus on opportunities to buy your materials in bulk because it will lower your price. It will lower your production costs, no matter what that is. Like when I see a really good deal, I work with fabric. If I see a really good deal, I'll buy an entire bolt of a fabric, even if I only need I just need half a yard for this one project that I'm on today. But if I buy a bolt of that fabric, then I can just go ahead and make a bunch extra and stick them in the shop. I usually make my product and then sell it. I don't, what do they call it when you make it on, somebody orders it and then you make it? I don't do it that way. So if I see something at a really good deal, it's like, oh, this is a really good deal. I can buy extra fabric, make a bunch of them, because then I don't have to raise my prices. I can keep my prices stable for a lot longer. And that should be, I'm just cutting fabric. You just hear my ruler thunking around over here. That should be one of your goals whenever possible. And it might just be, if you do something very, very specific, you might only be able to buy your thread, your glue. Like if you find, okay, say you're doing a project that's, I don't know about adhesives and stuff like that, so we'll just say hot glue. I don't use any of that in what I'm making. So say your product uses hot glue and you have an opportunity to go buy a 50-pack of the glue sticks. Why, I only need one, but it's cheaper to buy 50. And as long as, and if you have confidence in your business that it's smarter to have a huge stockpile of it, bringing the cost even lower, keeping your cost lower. That's secondary to this. That's just me wandering off on a tangent. Anyway, is there something you can do about your product? Say you make, I don't know, say you make wallets and you only make black wallets. Now I'm guessing I'm not into leather working either, so I'm going to say stupid shit that makes no sense. But what if your market for black wallets is dropping off, but what if you have an opportunity to pick up some extra product and make multicolored wallets? I know you can get leathers in all kinds of different colors. Is that doable for you? Does that work for you? Right? Is that something that makes sense for you? This is something, updating and refreshing your products, finding ways to improve upon things. That is something that should always be on your mind. Even if the improvements are minor, it still means that your product is up to date and competitive. And there are people, I've been selling the exact same, somebody was just in the shop, in the group not too long ago. I've been selling the same product for 12 years or 10 years or however long they were selling the product for, and now my sales are dropping and I don't know why. And it's like, what have you done to change your product, to improve it, update it, do this thing? And they're going, well, nothing. It's selling well. Why would I do that? And it's like, well, it's no longer selling well. Now it's time to do that. You don't have to change your product. You never have to change your product. I haven't changed my product. I've added some products, but the products that I started the shop with, I haven't changed. I don't need to. I'm not going to. But, and here's the important part. Here's the part that business is business and your feelings can go out the window, right? Regardless of how you feel about your product and how you feel about where your product should or shouldn't be in the community, yada, 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 you should always be willing to update your product. And if you're willing to do something, as soon as you're willing to do something, as soon as you think about what am I willing to change, what am I not willing to change, and this is like human nature, hindbrain, lizard brain 101. This is how this works. As soon as we always do this thing. It's like, oh, as soon as I decide to do something, this stuff I just kept tripping over. I decided to start offering multicolored leather for my wallets, and as soon as I made that decision, I started tripping over opportunities to buy multicolored leather. Well, you didn't. What you started doing is you adjusted your thinking and started noticing opportunities that you'd been ignoring before. Because if it's not relevant to you, why would you pay attention to it? So, being willing to, even if you're not in a position where you feel you need to be updating and freshening your products, being willing to will make you more, it will just like trigger your brain into noticing these opportunities more. Because I do hear that a lot. It's like, I have no idea what to do to make my business blah, 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 blah. And people are going, well, you consider this, and this. And they're like, wow, no, this is a revelation to me. And it's like, because it never occurred to you to pay attention. And so you just never noticed, which is fine. It's fine. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has to be perfect. That part's fine. This is just, like I said, my opinions based on my experience, based on what works for me. Anyway, so we're going to move on with that. If you have a product that is losing on sales, but you have done nothing, your product may be a hula hoop. Your product may simply be in need of a bit of a refresh, and you need to make the business decision as to whether or not you're going to improve, update, replace the product. Sometimes, in spite of it being your favorite product, it's just no longer viable as a product, and you need to change your tactics. That just happens, and there's nothing. And yeah, for some people, that's just the end of their business. And it's shitty when that happens. It's not fun when that happens, but that is just, and that's fine too, because one thing that I see is people that are like, I've been losing money on every sale for the last 6 months, but I don't want to give up yet. And it's like, what are you selling? Hula hoops. It's like, you need to give up. Sometimes that is the brutal reality. And that's fine. It's sucky, but it's fine. So give up on you don't have to give up on an online business. Giving up on a product, though, especially if it's one that you are invested in, can be a very difficult step to take. So it's something to be aware of. I am aware that there is a chance that my product might just simply become irrelevant. Me as a customer base doesn't do that anymore, so we no longer want your product. That's a possibility. But you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for that, aware of it, and have a backup plan. It's not a major. It's not some major thing that you have to torture yourself with at night. Like I said, when you adjust your thinking on how you're going to run that part of your business, what happens if I need to change a thing? It's not that it's not this magical, well, maybe for some people it is a magical manifestation, but you start noticing things that you would just, why would you notice something that's of absolutely no use to you? Suddenly it's like, oh, well, keeping my eye out for opportunities to grow, change, blah, 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 blah would be very beneficial and helpful. Suddenly you'll start noticing it. Anyway, now here's another one. Are your sales down or are your profits down? This is a big one because lots of people have shops that have multiple products, different types of products. So what did I write down? I wrote something down. Okay, here's an example. If you have stickers that you sell for $1, posters that you sell for $20, and you normally sell an equal amount of each, okay, we don't care about the overall profits. If you're losing poster sales at $20 a poster versus stickers at $1 a sticker, losing those sales are going to hurt a lot more than losing some sticker sales, right? So if you lose 5%, if you lose 5% of your poster sales and 5% of your sticker sales, and assuming that your numbers mean I've sold 5 less posters this month, you're out $100. I sold 5 less stickers this month, I'm out $5. I think people are getting, running an online business is getting, it's becoming more and more popular, so there's more and more resources. So there's more and more ways to get information, but I think a lot of people are still making the mistake of going, my sales are down, my profits are down 75%. And then they look and they go, oh, I'm not selling any posters. I'm only selling stickers. It's like, okay, so is there a way, is it worthwhile to continue selling posters? Is that causing a money drain for you? And how do you want to fix that? Do you want to just refocus onto stickers and focus on trying to sell more or different posters? Which product, if you have multiple products or multiple related products, which part of your product base is it that really should be changed? People get crazy and run in. I have to redo my entire shop. I need to get more sticker sales. It's like, but it's the posters that are costing you the money. It's like, I need to get more poster sales, but, you have 0 on your sticker market. So maybe if you stop putting your resource, it gets complicated, okay? That's just, it gets complicated, but it's not complicated. So when you're down money, it's worth it for you it's worth it to swing back and go, which actual product, do my products have a relatively big price range variation? Because it will matter. If I'm down, I've got one product that I sell for, what do I sell it for? I got one product that I sell for $40. I've got one product that I sell for $15. So if I'm losing sales on the one, I'm losing more money. How do I look that up? Well, that's personal. It's not a secret. That's not a secret. Me telling you how I manage my inventory is not going to it's not going to do you any favors because everybody's mileage varies. I'm a big advocate for looking up ideas, but I find that for most businesses, like I said, everything's different for everybody. Very few businesses they're just not as identical as you think. If you've ever, here's a good example. I worked back in the day, way back in the day, women in my age group. When the kids are young, you tend to work part-time. And so basically working part-time back when the kids were young, I worked at a Burger King and I worked at a Wendy's restaurant. 2 different fast food places, right? Now, you as the customer are going, oh, well, which kind of burger do I want today? I'll go here, I'll go here. But the reality is that behind the scenes, both businesses ran very differently. Is it nuanced? Of course it's nuanced. If I were to have brought you in, if I do the new hire process on you over here and show you how to do some stuff, and then do the new hire process over here and show you how to do some stuff, and it's not working out, you stay for 2 days, you stay for 2 days. You're going to look at it and you go, they're the same. And they are. It's fast food, it's fries, it's burgers, right? But once you've been there for a bit, once you start to see the differences, you see that it's pretty fundamental. And it's difficult to explain unless you've actually been in that environment. Call centers, if you've worked in more than one call center. It's the same for any type of business. If you've worked at an Esso at gas station and then worked at a Petro-Canada, you're going to see ways in which they're the same, ways in which they're very, very different, right? So think of this as the basics. This is the basic of how this shit goes, so that you have ideas, so that you can figure it out and make your own decisions and go from there. Like I've got a bit of a buddy that I talk to whenever I'm at the post office, and he's got an online business. He sells a different product to a different demographic. You know, there's things that are the same, and there's things that are so fundamentally different that anything I could tell him about, oh, I do this, and this would never work for his business. Keep that in mind, because we see a lot of people going, you need to do this. And it's like, no, I need to do this because that's what works for me. I can tell you what works for me. You might be able to make a flavor of it work for you, but you should never do you may end up doing exactly what I do and it works, right? There's, how many million sellers? Of course. But if you try to do everything exactly the way that I'm doing it, you're going to get different results. Keep that in mind. That's another problem with sales. If you are only following somebody else's formula and not giving any thought to the nuances of how that formula does or doesn't affect you, because like I said, Burger King, Wendy's, it's only a very small nuanced change. It really is at the end of the day. Like, I mean, this was not rocket science, right? But these small nuanced changes create entirely different business models, create entirely different results, create entirely different experiences. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And that is something that can impact your sales. Because if I say, I do this, and then you immediately, well, oh, I think Peggy's successful, so I'm going to do exactly what she does. But if that's not what your audience wants to see, then you're going to commit business suicide, right? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. So where are we? We're kind of narrowing in on the end. I'm trying to keep my rants to. Hey, I've been doing pretty good though. I'm trying to keep the rants to a minimum. The actual rants where I just get repetitive and go. I think I'm doing a little bit better. I don't care if I'm repetitive. I called this Etsy rants. I called it rants for a reason, and rants are never about being articulate. Anyway. Okay, did something about your product change? This happens on a regular basis. This happened to me. Just because at one point one of my products came in white, and then all of a sudden I couldn't get it in white anymore. I had to do it in black. It changed things. It changed what I could do. It changed how I could do it. It was a very nuanced change. Basically, what it was, I use interfacing. Sometimes when I'm doing a project, I want a little bit of some of my stuff requires a bit of stiffening between the layers, right? Between the layers of fabric. So, well, you can see it here. See how that's really pale? This is a really pale fabric, right? Well, some of my I'm just telling my story because this makes sense, right? So I was using a white interfacing. When you have two layers of fabric and the middle piece is white, there's absolutely no problem. Boop, off you go, do your thing, right? Well, all of a sudden, this was during COVID, and I survived it, it was fine. This was during COVID, well, all of a sudden I could only get black interfacing. Now, when you put a light colored piece of cloth over top of a dark anything, the darkness goes through, right? So suddenly I've got this dark product, so I've got certain fabric colors that I can no longer use. It's like, oh, I can't use those fabrics because it's going to look muddy and gross. If you know what I mean, if you're not sure what I mean, take a piece of white fabric and put it over a white table, then put it over a black table. I couldn't do it. So what do? I didn't force the same thing to work. Something about my product changed. And so I continued on as normal, only using darker fabrics, right? So my color range changed. I was able to offer a wider color range, and then suddenly, for about a year and a half, I wasn't. So what did I do about it? Well, my product changed. It didn't change the quality. I got lucky there because it wasn't about the quality, but yeah, I stopped selling lighter fabrics. I started focusing more on dark fabrics with a lot of black in them and things like that, so that they weren't going to be affected by not being able to put white as my layer in between. Yeah, so they weren't, sorry, I had to stop and restart. Dogs barking, little buggers. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so basically, I was affected by a product change that I couldn't do anything about. Like I said, one of the products that my product had to change. I had to change to keep up. So when you're in business for yourself, when you're doing this for yourself, it's like, well, what do you, so what? So you have to use darker fabrics. Who cares, right? Well, my customers that came in saying, can I get this? Can you make me one in this really pale fabric? And I'm coming back saying no, they cared. My sales were impacted. So I refocused my product. I refocused my efforts. I went ahead and just started doing darker fabrics. People that were looking for lighter fabrics, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. And I stopped buying as many lighter fabrics because I couldn't do anything with it. And I just waited out the problem. Now the white is available again. It was a supply and demand problem, right? And that's another piece to latch onto. If it's a supply and demand problem, being aware of supply and demand is a big, big thing. It's important. So it's, again, is this your fault? Is the usual AAA quality product just simply not available because your supplier can't keep it in stock? Do you have to switch down to a lower quality product? Is there something you can do so that your customers are, you can just continue on business as normal with the lower quality product, but if they notice, you've got a problem, right? And online shoppers are very savvy. Sooner or later they notice. Anyway. So that's another thing, is something about your product changes, especially if it's changes that are beyond your control. How are you going to deal with that? Or is it a small problem? For me, it was a small problem. Oh, hey, sorry, I've only got black interfacing right now. If I make that in a lighter color for you, it's just not going to look good. I didn't just sell it to them. Oh, I need the money. I'm going to sell it to them anyway. It's like, no, because then they're not going to come back. It's like, that's not okay, right? I'm not going to protect today's dollar at the cost of all future dollars. I said that right? I think I said that right. Anyway. So that's a thing. We've also got, are you marketing to the right people? Are you engaged with your audience? This matters. If you are making efforts to drive your own sales, and again, if your focus is to always be all about your SEO and get your sales off of Etsy, then you don't need to worry about this. You really don't. Then you need to focus on your SEO, your descriptions, and all that other shit, right? So you need to know, who are my customers? Where are they coming from? What am I doing to attract them? And if you are working to attract your own customers through your own efforts, if you're working to drive your own traffic, then you need to be aware of this. It's a completely separate problem. Oh, I have good SEO. Why aren't these people that I'm marketing to rushing to Etsy to go find me? It's like, that doesn't work that way, right? So I do my own marketing. I don't rely, I get some sales from Etsy, and I always appreciate it when I get a few sales from Etsy, but I don't rely on Etsy for my sales, and I don't need to, so I'm in a really good situation. But yeah, so if I'm driving my own marketing, then obviously my customer service needs to be a certain way. Everything needs to be top notch. Because when you're driving your own customer base, when you're doing your own marketing, when you're driving your own traffic, then you really, really want to focus on building up a word of mouth practice as soon as possible, right? And so that matters. Some people have really shitty customer service skills and don't admit it, and then can't figure out why. Eventually word gets out, because word gets out, especially if you're marketing to a small community, suddenly there's sales tank. And I've seen it. I've seen people coming in going, blah, 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 this happened, that happened. I told my customer to fuck off. I sent the wrong product, but because my customer wouldn't return it at their expense, I told them to fuck off. They weren't getting a refund. I saw that once. It's like, oh, well, see you back in 6 months when your customer base collapses, because if that's how you treat people, you could expect word to get out, because they were also self-marketing and doing this and doing that. You have to be honest about yourself. You have to be honest about your behaviors. If you are I'm a take no shit person who really has no tolerance for people that act like A, B, and C, don't drive your own traffic. Don't drive your own traffic, because eventually word's gonna get out. You're gonna have to be really, if you're gonna drive your own traffic, you have to get really, really, really big before any bad behavior on your part won't have an immediate, well, maybe not immediate, but won't have a backlash, right? Okay. And here is the last one, and this is kind of back to the hula hoop comment. Is your market tapped out? Now, this is a thing. This is a huge thing. If you are selling, I don't know, what's a product that you could sell? If you are selling furniture of some kind, and most of your business is coming from traffic that you've gotten for yourself, if you're driving your own traffic, and the community in which you're selling, everybody already has one, and it's not a product that people would want more than one of, that can happen. So do you need to change your product? Do you need to change your marketing? What do you need to change to bring new people in to look at your product? And that can be a thing. Some products people like to buy lots and lots and lots. I'm lucky, my product, there's a market for people to buy more than one of my products. So I get really, really lucky that way, right? There's a couple of other products that I make though, where once people have 2 or 3 max, they usually are satisfied and done. So I still sell that product because I really, really, really love that product, but I also know that I'm not going to expect huge, giant, I'm not going to put 50 in the shop and have all 50 be gone in the next 2 days. It's not going to happen that way, right? So you have to ask yourself, even if you have a good product, it's possible that your product is niche enough. Say you sell model trains, and so most of your customers, say you sell customized model trains, and most of your customers, I think that's a relatively small community. Think of a relatively small niche community. So yeah, it's easy to tap out your community so there's nothing wrong with your product. There's just simply no longer a market for it. And again, the hula hoop is the big national coast to coast version of the exact same thing. Every kid had a hula hoop. Hula hoops were cheap. They were easy. They were this, they were that. And then suddenly they were tapped out. It happens. That is probably the one thing that happens. We have right now not right now, like forever in Etsy, jewelry is a tapped out market. Jewelry is so oversaturated in Etsy that people trying to get into Etsy selling jewelry almost always have a really hard time unless they're driving their own traffic. And even when they are, it's like, oh, I'm going to go check out your store on Etsy. Oh, Etsy seems cool. Let's see what other stores are selling jewelry, right? Jewelry is a tapped out market. So unless you already have a plan and an audience and this and that, unless you already have something going on in your favor, you're probably not, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get started. I can't say you won't get anywhere with it, but lots of people get started in jewelry and they just crash and burn really fast, and that happens, and it's still not your fault. I think the punchline for all of this. None of this is shit that's your fault. It's not your fault. It's just no longer working for you. So you have to start looking into alternatives, ways to improve your product, ways to improve your product, ways to increase your I can't talk all of a sudden. Ways to improve your product, ways to increase your reach, ways to compete while remaining profitable. And sometimes the best way to compete is just to simply not compete at all. A lot of times people, when they do experience these problems, they are like, what can I do to fix this without changing anything about the way I do business? And that's usually the one thing that's going to guarantee that you won't fix it. But anyway, that's my rant. I got to stop here. I've already been going on for a bit, just a bit. So I'm going to get going, and I'm going to get back to actual work and get some shit done. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.